Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Geras. I'm the Vice President of IoTech International, and I am so excited tonight to introduce my co-host, Ashley Snow, Business Development Director, and most importantly of the whole entire night of this is the most exciting. Oh, by the way, this is our first podcast of Don't Sleep with the Enemy. And tonight I want to introduce you to the enemy, but before I do that, I want to introduce you as somebody so beautiful, so wonderful, and an influence in the dental world, and more importantly, somebody that loves people. And so her name is Misty Mattingly. She's the Chief Hygiene Officer for Sage Dental. She's the director of the Hygiene Happy Hour that she has, a club for people to get together to learn and talk and about new things in hygiene, and also she's involved with Smilesip, which is another incredible system that she'll be able to go over. But again, really quick, before I get started with introducing Misty, I want to introduce the enemy. And so the reason for the podcast of Don't Sleep with the Enemy is I was concerned that many people, including hygienists, are not educated or not educated enough on how serious the consequences are of sleeping with the enemy. And the enemy is not your wife or husband. The enemy is the bacteria that's in your mouth. And I'm not talking about the good bacteria. I'm basically talking about the bad guys. And these bad guys, you know, like Frankie Fuso for Fusobacteria nucleatum, is linked to colon cancer and heart disease. And by the way, you're going to see these characters are linked to the same thing over again. Tony Prevotella for Prevotella intermedia is heart disease. Again, nerve disorders, gout, and malignancies. And over here, you got Joey Treponema. And you got heart disease again, oral digestive cancers, lesions. Again, over here, we've got Rocco Tanarella. Again, esophageal cancer. You know, these are not things to take lightly. And so many people, when they see this, they skip. Oh, whoa, we got over here, we got Patty Profomonis, Alzheimer's, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, respiratory, oral digestive cancers. Could you imagine when you sleep with the enemy? And even though you think it may just be bleeding gums, do you think just for a little bit that you're swallowing a lot of this? And where is this stuff going? And that's why tonight I want to introduce, more than ever, Misty Mattingly. And Misty Mattingly, I want to thank you very much for being on our very first podcast. And I truly love who you are as a person. And I truly love everything what you're doing in the dental world. And you are an influence. You are a person that really is truly trying and doing the best they can to make a difference in people's lives. And also you work with vendors and people, and you're just a people person who loves people. And that's why I value you, and that's why I chose you to be our first person on our show. So Misty Mattingly, welcome.
Thanks. Yes, thank you. And thank you for letting me be your first guest. I'm super excited. I've known a little bit about Sleeping with the Enemy for quite some time, and how you're really taking an innovative approach on, educating, our patients on making it fun here, right? With Sleeping with the Enemy and these characters, and really helping people identify and understand that this bacteria that's in their mouth, it really does impact their overall health. And, my passion is making a difference in, our patients, but also in clinicians, and making them better. And that's really, I love IoTech. I actually found IoTech kind of in 2019, I think long before people really knew about it. And it was just something that I was really looking for, something that was different than chlorhexidine, given the fact that chlorhexidine has some really negative connotations, and really inhibits, the formation of osteoclast and all these type things, and actually the ligament attachment, right? There's some research that even says that even is impacted. And so, we were looking at options. And when we started to look at that, I found IoTech, and it was close to where I worked. And so I had the opportunity to do it. And the cool part about it is I love the fact that I had IoTech in my arsenal, right? During 2020, so many people didn't. And what I really loved about it, it was really, we used it for pre-rinse for our employees. We used it as a pre-rinse for our patients, and we really didn't have anyone in our offices that contracted COVID from, being in one of the practices. It was that they got it from church and all these other places where they weren't continually using, Iorinse. And then two, I was probably one of the first ones to ever, I hate to say this, but I snorted it back in the day. And the reason why is because, my grandfather was a trucker, right? And truckers, they come up with all these ways to kind of keep themselves healthy because they're on the road and they get sick and they just can't stop, right? So my grandfather always used to say he would use Listerine when on the road, and he said, man, it'll clean up a sinus infection. And so I began, utilizing as I flew, one of the very first people to fly, because I was in Florida and Georgia, where we opened up during COVID so early. In Georgia, we were only closed for like a week, and everybody thought we were crazy for opening up. But I didn't feel bad about it because I had Iorinse, I had IoTech in my arsenal. And so, I would actually take, the cotton swab, and I would swab my nose before flying. I made sure. And then two, I think reached out to you and said, hey, I think you need to make this a nasal spray, because I was like taking a little bit and like doing it myself, because I was really trying to stay healthy. And I knew that looking at the research, right, because I'm very research driven with anything that I'm going to put out there, that I read all the things about how it killed Streptococcus mutans and the rhinovirus and all those type things, right? And so I began to utilize it. And, my family, we've always, we're definitely Iorinse, IoTech family. We use it on a regular. And it's really cool to see how IoTech has really taken off and the impact that it's having, on the world, not just here in the USA, but really on the world, because it really has the impact to really keep this bacteria in our mouth at bay, right? And so many people, think that it's just this whole brushing and flossing. Let's just brush in the morning and floss and then brush at night. But what happens to us throughout all day? And then two, we know that just brushing alone isn't going to be enough. So we're going to sleep with this. It's still in our mouth, right? We know that this is going to come back every day when we wake up, but we want to have everything in play to be able to help us maintain good oral microbe oral flora, right? We want to make sure that we have good micro in the mouth, and we want to make sure that we're keeping that load at a reduced rate to reduce inflammation, which is what causes all of these characters to live in our mouth and have a dancing hell of a good time, and cause us to ultimately end up losing our teeth, because that really is what happens when we let periodontal disease really take full effect in our mouth. We, not only does it cause systemic issues, but it also causes us to ultimately lose bone and then ultimately lose our teeth. And smiles change lives, Jason. I smile at you, you smile back, right? Yep. And Ashley, the same thing, right? It's really important that smiles are a connection between people. And so I always say that, my role is, really that's the bigger piece. Smiles impact their overall health, but also mental health. And I think we often forget about that, how important a smile is, or if you're concerned with your smile, how that makes you feel. Right. And so it's really
Right.
important to give our patients, and family and friends the best um, that that's out there. And that really does start with IO tech as being an option for them.
So Misty, I want to say that one of my biggest influences in life, one of the best things that ever happened in my life, I probably the only prayer that ever really happened great in my life is Ashley Snow. Not only is she the business development director for IoTech International, but she's also my fiance, and I get to work with her side by side every day. And when we did this, we actually created the characters together, because when we go to these shows, we used to talk about the bacteria we kill, but as the hygienist would walk by, they would see bacteria we kill, and I would ask the question, "Do you know what Fusobacteria nucleatum is?" And they don't even know what it is. So if they see that we kill it, but they don't know what it is, then what difference does it make? And it won't make a difference to them, but it will certainly make a difference to the patient if patient can understand that Fusobacteria nucleatum is linked to colon cancer.
Oh,
So,
agreed.
so these links are so important. So I needed a way. And so what's really interesting is these characters are created by my cousin, who is the co-creator of the Schoolhouse Rock cartoon, and his name is Phil Kimmelman. And
That's
Phil
very
Kimmelman
cool.
is the creator of Schoolhouse Rock. He's one of them, and he's also a digital cartoonist, as you could see, the cartoonist for that sure before
Yeah.
digital. But so it's really exciting to have these characters, because once they see the characters, maybe they can remember the bacteria and remember what to talk about, and then maybe explain to a patient why they should be, doing, taking better care of their oral hygiene. So, first of all, I want to start off by asking you, what inspired you to even become a dental hygienist?
Well, in all honesty, I first went to school for broadcast journalism and I wanted to be a fashion news anchor. And that's actually what I started out with. But while I was in, while I was in school, luckily I always was really good in college because I was in foster care. And then whenever I graduated, I was always good in school. And so I got a scholarship. And so it allowed me to go off to college for broadcast journalism. I was, you know, newspaper and also morning news and all that when I was in school. And I did dentistry kind of as my side gig, right? But whenever I was in school for communications, broadcast journalism, there was just a change that kind of happened, and so I decided to just kind of take a year off and work in the dental office. And while I did that, I said, "Well, I'm going to apply to hygiene school." And so I applied to hygiene school, and I actually got in as an alternate the first year. And just given my financial situation, and being at that point in my life, I was like, I need to really take a year and kind of save up and plan for it, because in hygiene school, you can't really like work. I figured out a way though to do my own thing in hygiene school. But it was one of those things that I just wanted to be a little bit prepared for. And so that's kind of how I got into hygiene school. But dentistry, I've been a part of since I was in high school. I did it as a work release, where I would get to leave early because I was kind of less fortunate than others, but you find a way. And so when I was at that age, I got to leave school, and there was a dental practice that I was able to walk to and go and, get to be in a part of their practice. And it was great because, I've actually done everything in dentistry except be a dentist now, because I was a hygiene assistant. I became a DA assistant. I was an office manager. I've been a regional manager, you name it. I've done it in dentistry. And I love that. And I love dentistry. And I'm very proud of everything that we have going on here in dentistry, because I think so much is changing. And I think our patients are beginning to really understand that the mouth is not separate from the rest of the body. But for so long, we've treated it that way. It's like, oh, well, that's just my mouth. Well, you don't realize, is that how you feel about everything else? Because if so, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You say that, and I actually seen some articles in wellness, like a wellness magazine, where a doctor was saying that there's an increased level of breast cancer from the oral cavity. There's an increase of many different diseases, and even the diseases in the mouth. If you have periodontal disease, everything seems to get worse. Like every problem you have is magnified, and so when somebody is eating a corn on the cob and they got blood on it, or they're biting into an apple, and they have blood on that apple, that is not normal.
It's not normal.
It's normal because it doesn't hurt.
Well, and that's why people, and I always say, and this is one of my favorite coin sayings, I always say, if you brush your hair and your scalp bled, I mean, I know you ain't got this, Jason, but if you brushed your hair and your scalp bled, would you be concerned? Heck yeah, you would. And so many people just think that it's normal, and it's so sad, because that just means they're walking around with a constant oral systemic infection. Right. That's where I've been trying to say, I'm changing up my own verbiage around saying periodontal disease. Instead, that's one of my new focuses, is really concentrating on an oral systemic infection. That is what periodontal disease is. And I think we've got to rebrand it, because we've kind of separated the two, and the mouth is not disconnected from the body. And we should say, you have an oral systemic infection, and here's what I want to be able to treat it and to maintain it.
We have an imbalance of the oral microbiome, and the imbalance is a major problem. I mean, if you've got more bad than good, you have a real problem. If you have good than bad, then maybe you don't have a problem, but you're still going to get a problem because the bad's still there. So, but my question to you is what tips can you give somebody, a patient that has this imbalance and has these problems? What tips can you give them as a hygienist now to better improve the oral hygiene at home?
Well, I mean, I think to improve your oral hygiene at home, I always say use an electric toothbrush, or use something. And the thing is, too, when you use an electric toothbrush, you bought an electric toothbrush. And when I say an electric toothbrush, I'm talking one that's costing probably about $100, guys, just to clear it, like a really good toothbrush.
Mine was $200. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
A really good one. So if you're getting a really good toothbrush, you paid that money, let it do the work for you. Just put the toothbrush in the right area, right? But if you're using a manual toothbrush, which a lot of people are, you want to make sure that you're utilizing it for at least 2 minutes and really taking the time to be able to brush your teeth. And two, flossing is one of those things, but I know that as a hygienist, I tell patients to floss, and we know that they don't. So it's not even one of those things I even worry about. So I look for things like Iorinse, right? That somebody can really rinse out with, really vigorously, swish it around, be sure that it's getting in between and killing that bacteria, and leave it in there for about 30 seconds. And then you can then spit it out. And then you will feel that difference in your mouth, and you can really tell, and it's going to kill that bacteria. We know that this is going to kill pretty much any type of bacteria in the mouth in that 30 seconds. And so that's really important, to be able to lower that microbial load at least before you're going to bed, because when you go to bed, these guys are really acting up. This is when they have a party. They're at the nightclub. They are just having a hell of a good time. And that's what we don't want. We want to really reduce that before we go to bed, so we give our opportunity, because during that time while we're sleeping, that's kind of the worst time, because it's moist, it's a warm area, and that's really the time where, like I said, it's a nightclub action for them. They're having a good heck of a time. And so
saying that, we go into another segment of it is, so we're talking about this bad bacteria and the good times they're having. And so being a hygienist and being in the field and you with so many people, do you feel like, for example, first of all, many people, you've dealt with so many people that wanted a nice set of new teeth, correct? I mean, so
Mhm.
do you see a lot of implant failure these days from implants that are failing?
I think we're seeing more and more implant failures. And I think this is something that we're going to continue to see in the US because there's a big push to be able to do, you know, implants. And it is a great way to replace a tooth, right? I would say it's by far the best. But what we're really seeing with implant failures is nobody knows how to care for them. And that's the biggest problem is because you have, you know, all these variations. You have Nobel, you have Strawman, you have all these. I'm trying to think of another one. But you have all these different people that are doing implants and nobody knows like what instruments to use. Plastic instruments. No, you don't. Just I'll say that. But some people still think you use plastic. Do you use titanium? And every implant is different too, right? I mean, there's even some ceramic implants that are coming into the market. And so, no, everybody's scared of them too. And the traditional way that you would probe, I mean, it's still the same, but it will be probably deeper than a traditional tooth. So people are like, they're uber scared of them. And because of that, in the field, they don't get the treatment that they deserve. And patients don't understand how to care for them either. And therefore, between that combination, that's why we're seeing a complete failure, you know, in lots of cases. I think we're seeing more, but also at the same regard, Jason, we're also seeing more implants ever be placed than we've ever seen, right?
So
Like,
care for the implant is going to be very crucial in the upcoming years, and products
mhm.
such as antimicrobials are going to be more and more needed than anything. But I want to ask you something, and I thought of a couple things, and before I ask you, I gotta be careful because my fiance is right there, and I just got to be really careful. But Misty, I say I take you out to dinner tonight and we go out to dinner and we decide to have an Italian dinner and you pick out your meal. And
uh,
just a quick question for you, and just be honest. If you saw some bugs on the food, would you ask the waiter to bring it back?
yeah, I would actually not continue to eat there.
Well, wait. This is how I feel. I feel that the reason you're not going to eat there, or the reason you're not going to eat it, is because you can see them and they're gross and it's nasty. But what I'm concerned about is not the bugs that you can see. I'm concerned about the bugs you can't see. And these
Oh,
bugs are alive and well in your mouth. And so when I think of hygiene, I'm thinking of these bugs that are 10 times, 100 times more dangerous than something you could eat and swallow versus something that you're swallowing and that gets into your bloodstream and travels and wants to literally destroy you.
right.
And that's the way I think of it. And that's why antimicrobial rinsing to me is so important. But then I have one last question, in a couple of questions actually. But my last question to you is, so we go to dinner and we decide that it's time to adopt a child.
Okay.
It was a good dinner, obviously, right?
Apparently so.
It was a great dinner. So we decide you and me are going to adopt.
Maybe not because we adopted one.
Yeah, but it's going to be a good one. Don't worry. When we bring this child home, all I want to ask you is very simple. Do you believe that the child, which I know how much you love your children, I know you, Misty, but I know this well in you, and I know how you believe. But do you believe that the child deserves to have a safe, loving home?
Yes.
That's how I feel about implants. The implants deserve a safe, loving home. The
Mm-hmm.
bacteria that's in the mouth, these guys right here, are the reasons why you are going to possibly lose the implant. And so therefore, antimicrobial rinse that is very safe to use And not only just safe to use, you can't use chlorhexidine near implants. It's actually toxic for implants. There's actually an article that was produced because of the titanium surfaces, and it's not good for chlorhexidine and titanium surfaces to touch, and therefore creates a peri-implantitis, and which then of course many of peri-implantitis patients then suffer with implant failure, and therefore that's a major problem. So my next thing to you is, so now let's talk about your future and where you're headed now. Like, tell me a little bit about Smilesip. Tell me a little bit of Hygiene Happy Hour. Tell me how people can find you. Tell me what things you're working on, because I think it's so important for people to follow you. Why? Because you're educating them on things that are really incredible, and you're bringing up to date knowledge. So I just want to know what is new and exciting, and tell me what you're up to, and tell my audience, what is it that you're up to, and fill me in.
Yeah, well, I was actually trying to get a sample of Smilesip over here to me to show you that. But Smilesip is my latest innovative product that I have now brought. So I'm very proud to say that, like, I found Iotech, I found Curidon, I found a couple of these key things that are now here in the U.S. making an impact. And then now I've actually brought forth Smilesip, which is the first oral health care drink in the world. It comes in 6 flavors. All great. I have to say mango and rose, or I kind of like to call rosé, my favorite. The great thing about Smilesip is that it absolutely helps prevent cavities. So the good thing about Iotech is that allows you morning and night to kind of kill that bacteria. And then the great thing about Smilesip is it gives us the ability throughout the day to have a drink, right? A functional drink throughout the day that we can drink and just sip on it. I mean, literally today I made one up early this morning, and I've just sipped throughout the day, and it helps repel. I like to call it Rain-X for your teeth. Like, if you guys, you know what Rain-X is?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a wax. It's almost like a wax to repel.
Yeah. So it's going to repel stains. Like, my teeth are nice and white because of it. And if you have had coffee and you have coffee breath, sip, swish, swallow, it'll instantly get rid of coffee breath. All of these guys are some Italians, right? Frankie Fuso, right? Some Italians. So, they love some garlic, those Italians. Smilesip. If you sip, swish, swallow with it, it'll kill your garlic breath. It's phenomenal. And the other great thing about it is it helps with dry mouth as well. So it's dysfunctional. And I have an oral cancer patient, and this is also, I recommend are using Iotech. But during the day when they need to eat, right? They're like, how would you like, and he actually said this to me, he said, how would you like to have, a mint sandwich with your food? And I said, God, I never thought about it that way, versus having this, which is a functional drink, right? And actually I'm going to do rosé because I've had that one for the day. But literally you just, open it up, put it in your cup here, and sip, swish, swallow, and you will feel a difference on your teeth. Like I said, it's going to protect the teeth structure. It's going to feel a coating. Your teeth are going to feel cleaner. It actually delineates the plaque. So it kind of breaks down that plaque structure. So throughout the day, when your teeth feel slimy and stuff, you just make a glass and
I heard it helps with the pH as well, correct?
It does. It actually neutralizes pH. We've been actually proving that and testing that. And that's really cool, because when people come in, and a pH is like, if you were to have Coke and then you, that's going to lower the pH, or you have lunch, that's going to lower the pH. And the other thing is it has prebiotics. So what's really great about that is digestion begins in the mouth. So it helps out with inflammation as well. So if you have like bleeding gums, things like that, it'll also help with that. But we really need multiple combinations throughout the day to really get total oral health, right? It's so important to be able to use more than just one thing. It's not just brushing and flossing anymore. And here's the thing, we haven't made an impact on oral health, really, in all honesty. Think about it. In since we've started our profession. But the reason why is because we're just like, just do it once. But you're putting things in your mouth constantly throughout the day. So you're constantly lowering that pH and changing that microflora in the mouth. And so it's really important that you keep that. So I'm really excited about that. That's my latest innovation that I brought into the US and discovered. And then on top of that, really working to really educate the public on oral healthcare and that oral systemic infection piece. That is so important because so often they don't understand it. And they just think that, they just think of teeth as being a cosmetic piece. Yeah. And it's so much more than cosmetic. And we know that because what we do, but we have really I have a charge to really, get that out into the community. And that's one of the reasons why, I really started Smilesip or, really wanted to partner with them, was because it's a great way to really educate the public on oral health in a nice, easy, functional way to be able to do that. But not only I hope they use Smilesip, there's tons of other things that I hope they do to improve their oral health care, because it's just one piece as well.
It's fun.
Absolutely.
It's something that you can do during the day. It's not something that you have to do once, twice. It's something that you could do all day.
Hey, something that tastes good.
It does taste good. This is the rosé. Rose is actually one of the favorites. It's actually the most popular in Australia.
Oh, cool. I like
mango's my favorite, which is here.
Mango.
So Misty, I want to again thank you very much for being on our very first podcast, and you will be on several more. And like I said, I think you bring a lot to the industry, and I think you are a great educator, and you help so many people get to different levels and make people think outside the box. And so that said, is I know that you're also part of the brand ambassador program for IoTech.
Yes.
And so we're grateful to have you because it's wonderful to have you, and of course it is it's so important for people to use an antimicrobial rinse when they have a microbial problem. We talk about bad bacteria, good bacteria. At the end of the day, it's always going to be about the balance. And if the balance is not there, and if it's off, it has to be corrected. And nobody wakes up every day and spits into they don't spit into a vial to get their saliva tested, and they don't do it daily. It's not a daily thing. Many people think because they have white teeth that they're okay. And nope. That's why Smilesip is so important. That's why IoTech is so important. That's why Hygiene Happy Hour is so important, because if these hygienists come together in a group and they get the message off to other people, it'll bring other people on to realize that they're helping so many more people than just. And so, Misty, I love you. We appreciate you. And I want to sincerely say thank you for being on our podcast. This is our first podcast. Yes, I was nervous and sweating. And thank you for being here. And thank you very much for being my fiance. And Shay in the background, I know you're there. I just want to say that you kick butt tonight. And to all of you listening, remember that Iorinse isn't going anywhere. Smilesip isn't going anywhere. Misty isn't going anywhere.
Exactly.
And definitely Ashley's not going anywhere because they need her. But at the end of the day, I want you all to have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoyed our podcast. And this is our first one. And there's a lot more to come. And there's definitely new people coming in. We're looking forward to the next one. So podcast number 1 is gone. Have a wonderful day.
Yes.
Thank you.